Welcome to Lesson 4.8, all about Missouri state government. In today's lesson, we'll have a few different topics. First, we'll start with the Missouri Constitution, then a little bit about the General Assembly, and then we'll wrap up with Missouri judges. So we'll start with the Constitution. Missouri's first Constitution was written when it became a state in 1820. This is the current version, was written in 1945. It's actually the fourth Constitution of Missouri. There's a part of the Missouri Constitution that actually asks the voters every 20 years, automatically, it asks them, do you want to rewrite the Constitution entirely? So we have a provision built in to basically say, do you want a new constitutional convention? And since the 1960s, we've consistently actually rejected that and said, no, we're fine with the current one. It's actually pretty easy to modify the Constitution. There's three ways. The complete rewrite way that I just talked about. The second way is the Missouri legislature, which is called the General Assembly, proposes a constitutional amendment just with a simple majority vote, and then it goes to the voters who then just have to approve it with a simple majority. So again, it's pretty easy to modify our Constitution, and so because of that we have hundreds of constitutional amendments. There's another way to modify the Constitution. It's a little bit harder through a petition that's actually through hundreds of thousands of voters, and it depends on the number of people who showed up in the previous governor election. And then the voters actually have to ratify that petition with a 1/2 majority. So there are three different ways to modify our Constitution, and we'll next move on to the General Assembly. So the Missouri General Assembly works very similarly to the U.S. Congress. So there are two houses, there's a House and a Senate, but there is a couple of differences. Big difference is that the Missouri General Assembly has term limits. You can spend a maximum of 8 years in each house. So you can spend 8 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate. You can only be 16 years in the legislature. Every 10 years we do a redistricting for all of the seats. So whereas in the U.S. Senate, and you're a senator, you serve for the entire state of Missouri. In the Missouri Senate, you have a district, just like the House does as well. So it's a little bit different in that regard. The legislative process is pretty similar, though. You have to have a majority vote in both the House and the Senate. They have to be identical, and if they're not, then they go to a conference committee. Once they've been approved and they're an identical bill, they go to the governor, who has 15 days to veto or sign, and it takes a 2/3 majority of the General Assembly of both houses to overturn a veto. So a little bit more specific about the Missouri House of Representatives, and that's Stacey Newman, who's our House of Representatives member for Clayton. There are 163 members of the House of Representatives for Missouri, and there are specific qualifications that are listed there for you. They have a 2-year term in the Missouri House, just like the U.S. House of Representatives. They have officers that are very similar to the U.S. House, like a Speaker of the House. And like the U.S. House, they have the sole power to impeach public officials, and then they would hold trials in the Missouri Senate. So exactly the same as the U.S. Congress in that way. Now, like I said earlier, the Missouri Senate has fewer members, but they also have districts, and the district boundaries have to be equal in population. And that there is Maria Chappelle-Nodal. She's actually the senator for the area of Clayton as well. There's the specific qualifications, and the term is a little bit different. You get a 4-year term in the Missouri Senate. So that is different from the U.S. Senate, which is a 6-year term. The Missouri Senate has officers like the majority leader and the minority leader, but just like in the U.S. Senate, there's a filibuster, so debate can often drag on and on and on in the Missouri Senate, and a lot of times that's where bills end up being blocked. So the last topic in today's lecture relates to Missouri judges. So there are basically two ways that Missouri judges are chosen. You can either popularly elect them, which is how almost every county in the state does, so they have an election for the judges, or you can use something that's called the Missouri Plan, and actually several states have adopted our plan for how we choose judges. And this is how we choose judges in the St. Louis area and in the Kansas City area. So the way it works is a nonpartisan commission, so a few Republicans and a few Democrats, makes a long list of qualified candidates, and they send that list to the governor, who then chooses the judge from the list of candidates. In the next election, the judge has to be retained or kept by a majority of voters. So it's a chance for the voters to say, you know what, that guy, that lady didn't work out. Now, Missouri judges are a little different from federal judges in that they don't have life terms. They actually have to continue to stand for that election. So circuit courts, which are the lowest level of Missouri courts, they have 6-year terms, and the Supreme Court of Missouri and the Courts of Appeals have 12-year terms. There's one other change relating to Missouri judges in that they do have specific qualifications related to age, and they have to retire at age 70. So that's a little different as well. So you have to be a certain age, and it depends on which level of courts you are, and you also have to retire at age 70. So you don't have a 90-year-old on the Missouri Supreme Court. So that's all we have, and hopefully you've taken good notes about this first part of Missouri government. In the next lecture, we'll take a look at the Missouri executive branch. We'll see you next time.